Okay. Welcome, everyone. It's great to see everybody. I see familiar faces and new faces, so welcome. My name is Anita Thompson of Art Venture Workshops, and I'm happy to be here tonight. Thank you to Wrightstown Library and Karen and Rebecca for sponsoring this program and picking this program. For those of you that are in the Pennsylvania area, I think it's most of us, but we do have people that are in some other states. We had a football win yesterday of our Eagles, so it's pretty funny that Rebecca picked this. It was not intentional, but I don't know, maybe it was. So, uh, but as Karen mentioned, if anybody wants to make this all greens, feel free to do so. There actually is a lot of green and blue in it. Just going to show it kind of up close. There's definitely a lot of blue in it, but if you want to switch that to green, that's fine too. Okay, so we're going to get started. And for those that did not see the chat for whatever reason, if you just joined, we are using a half sheet of paper, of computer paper. So if you don't have computer paper, you can use regular paper and you just want it smaller. I'm just going to make sure everybody is muted since we are on a recording. And I'll mention again, this is being recorded and will be sent to Karen and Rebecca to pass out when it's finished. So it'll be ready probably about an hour after this is done, and I will send it out to them right away. Okay, so we are going to need our pencil first. Let me adjust here. And so we're going to be creating the shape of the eagle first. We always break things down into small shapes, or should I say small and big shapes, and then we get into the details, but we want to get everything placed first. Quickly, I'll also give you a rundown of the colored pencils you need, and I will do that again right before we start. But we are going to need a red, orange, a dark yellow, a green. Oops, I'm missing my green. Glad I went over it with you guys. Two blues. So like a regular blue or a darker blue. And then like a turquoise color, a brown, and a black. So those are the colors, and a purple. Sorry about that. And one more, a purple. So I will repeat those when we start. So let's get started. So we're looking at our paper here, and I'm just going to move my colors so that there's not too much of a glare. And we're going to start in the top left corner of our page. Our eagle is going to be coming down towards the bottom left corner. So we've got the eye happening over here, and we're going to do that first. We're going to go really up towards the corner here, and I'm going to go in a little closer so that you can see exactly what I'm doing here. As you can see, the original is a lot smaller than what we're doing. I tend to do that just due to time, because I can get more done quicker. So anyway, over here, top right corner, we're going to move over to the right, and we're going to make kind of a football shape. Isn't that funny? So we're going to make a big football shape. Now you're going to be doing this lightly, and I'm going to be doing this darker so you can see. So for now, we're just going to do that general shape of the eye area. Let me move this over a little bit. There we go. Okay. Now, once you have that done, over here on the right, so we basically have the edge of our eagle along the edge of the paper, but then we come a little bit downward from our paper. So if we are coming from, let me move this over. I realized it was not in the camera view. There we go. So we're going to come down with our pencil to create the part of his beak that's going to come in. So we're going to come right here for the curve, and then we're going to start his beak coming on over. So that beak is going to go down and over into kind of like a hook, kind of a hook shape. So something along the lines of this. And we're doing both the top and the bottom part of the beak at this point. So we go over and curve, and then we do a bit of a straight line underneath that curve. As you can see, oops, let's let Kathy in. I've got the top part of it sort of here, and then the bottom part over here. And once you have that, you want to start to curve that around like so. And then you're going to come back and you're going to meet up with the hook end of your beak here. I'm going to make this a little bit more hooked, kind of like that. Here we go, like that. And we have the start of our eagle. Nice, John Paul. Yes. Beautiful. Also, I just wanted to remind everyone, hopefully you can see this large. If you cannot, you want to make sure that you are on speaker view. And that way you should only be seeing the illustration. Okay, so we're finally just going to come over here and we're going to do the rest of the curve of our eagle. So we're going to come back up towards the mouth, the end of the mouth here. And we're going to make curve. And we're going to go down towards the bottom portion of the left side of our paper. And we're going to curve a little bit downward like so. So it's a pretty easy drawing, but we do most everything with the magic of our colored pencils. Okay, so now you want to take a look at where the eye is, and if you need any kind of adjusting. I'm realizing what I've done is I want to have this come down a little more, and this portion, we're going to start to make the roundness of the actual eyeball. So to do that, we kind of go inside that football shape. So I'll say that again. What I've done here is I've made that kind of football type shape that's going towards the top part of our paper. Oh, let me admit somebody else coming on. And then I've gone inside and kind of started to draw a bit of a circle for the eyeball, but we're also going to cut into that eyeball, not really cut into the eyeball. That sounds really gross. We're going to use our pencil to sort of cut into that shape, I should say. Okay. So, and welcome, Lorraine. And I think somebody else popped on. We have just started and we're using a half sheet of our computer paper. So you can rip that or cut that in half by folding it. And that's what we're using the size for. It's great to see you guys. And we've just started with the simple drawing. So we're just getting everything in order here as far as where everything is. Great. So we've started with the eye in the top left corner, and we're continuing now to make sure everything is in its place. So you want to make sure you have the eye in the right spot. We're now going to come over to the mouth here, and we're going to make just a slight line for the separation. Oops. Hold on. Let me kind of fix that here. Okay, so we're going to come back over here, and we make this line that we created a little bit more of a separation into going towards the I almost said the duck bill, the beak. So mine is a little bit thick, so I'm just fixing that. This is where we're fixing anything that we need to make it look better before we start. After you do that, we're going to do the separation of the end of it. So we're going to come over here, and we're going to be drawing the curved area that separates the orange part from the rest of it. So it's going to curve downward and then meet back up with this side. Okay. And then we're also going to come down here towards the tip, and we're going to create a curved line like this. That's going to be to remind us to actually make the nostril area. And if you want, you can kind of curve it around like so. We're going to be lightening up our lines before we get started. Okay. Now, once we have that done, we're going to actually be trading our pencil for our black colored pencil. So you want to get your black colored pencil now, because we're going to be going over the lines. We are going to be doing the mouth too, John Paul. Just wait. And the rest of the eye. So, but for right now, we want to now lighten all of our lines. So that means everything that we just drew, you just want to lighten it up. You're going to see that mine is getting lighter. And then we're going to be going over it in the black. And we're going to be making the separations for everything. So as you can see, it's getting lighter. And now we're going to start using our black colored pencil. So now what you want to do is retrace everything with your black. Oops, I grabbed my blue. There we go. There's my black. Now, it doesn't have to be a hard line. As a matter of fact, you don't want it to be too hard. So by that, I mean, you want to retrace it. You want to be able to see it, but it doesn't have to be marker hard, if that makes sense. We just want to retrace it in the black. And then what we're going to do is we're going to erase our pencil a bit from creating, or tracing, I should say, tracing over it. You also want to make sure that you get the mouth area. Remembering to trace the outside, the curve. And then this is where you just want to do a quick erase over everything to see if any of your pencil comes up from that. And then we'll start with the eye. We'll restart with the eye with the black. So you can leave the eye for now because we're going to restart it in black, so that basically what we'll be doing is we're going to be doing an under shading of black, and then our colors are going to be layered on top of that. And then we'll add black again on top of all of these fun, vibrant colors. Okay, so now that we have that, we also want to come back up to the eye now. We have our football shape, but we're going to start on the top here, right underneath the curve that we made. So you can remake this curve up here that we already made with our pencil. It's really going to curve around. Looks a little bit angry, but that's okay. That's how eagles look. Then we're going to go into the eye, and we're going to shape this a little bit differently. I made it round like an eyeball, but we're going to come right over here, and we're going to make this a little bit less of a circle. So it's going to look like this. Then it's going to come back up, but it's going to kind of come to a point right here and then come back over to the eye. Okay, so I'll repeat that, and I'm going to erase around it as to not confuse you. So we made it look like an eyeball at first, and it is an eyeball, but we're changing the shape a little bit like this. And then once we do that, we can then start to get started on the inside of the eyeball like this. So there's a black part, and it's going to go like this. I'm going to start going a little closer now so that you can see, since we're working in this section. And then after that, we're going to make the round part of the iris, but it's kind of going to be cut off right here. It's not as round. So we're going to make it look like this. Make that a little darker. We also want to make the circular highlight. And then we're going to go in and we're going to make another curve. And then we're going to come back over here and we're going to make one more curve, half curve, like so. And then you can erase everything around the eyeball like this. So you're then going to have what looks like this in your black colored pencil. And then we're going to start shading with our black colored pencil. So good to see everybody. Jenny and Bob, Ani and Linda and Gina. Awesome. Okay, so now once we do that, we're now going to start doing some shading. We're going to come over here to the top part again, right over here. And we're going to come over here and we're going to be shading in a sort of the shape of the football that we originally made the line. So I'm just going to kind of show this to you up close. So what I'm talking about is this part here. So it looks like fur. So we're going to do short strokes, almost in a curved line, right? So I'm going to take the pencil and I'm going to re-demonstrate it, but we're making curved furry strokes with our black pencil in that shape. So let's do that now. Oh, let me just double check. I thought I saw somebody come on. Nope. Okay. All right. So here we go. We're going to take our pencil. We're going to come over here and we're going to make light fur strokes going towards this portion of our eye. So let me make them a little bit bigger. And then I'm going to show it up close. It's kind of like that. Oops. So that's with our black. And now we're going to start to do some shading. Right before we do the shading, I want us to start separating the colors. So what I'm talking about is, again, we're going to be doing things like this. We're going to be actually making separated lines so that we know when we go back in and we're going to be using lines that go back and forth, we want to make those separations at first. Very lightly, but we're doing that with our black pencil. Okay, so we're going to come down here, but first we're going to come to the corner of our mouth and a little bit lower than the corner. And we're going to make our first curve. So over here, we're going to curve and go out towards our paper like this. And then we're going to keep going. We're going to make another curve coming from here. Same thing. You're going to curve towards the left side of your paper. And you're going to keep going. Some of you may have a little bit wider of the eagle, and some may have not so wide, but you just want to keep making those curves. And there's one more that's really small or thinner when you get to the edge here, and it sort of starts to go towards your original line. So you're going to have something that looks a bit like this. Now, once we have that, we are going to come over here to the right side, and we're going to go and make the other section for the beak. So that section is a few bumps, and then it goes towards the right side of the beak, right here. Then once you do that, we're going to go inside the beak and we're going to make what looks like sort of a sidewards triangle, but a curve on the bottom. Kind of like the Star Trek insignia for those that know Star Trek. And then a little bit of a curved line to the right of it and towards the beak area. So you should have something that's starting to look a bit like an eagle. And then we're going to start with adding more separations up here towards the head. So first we're going to come down a little bit right over here, and we're going to start to make little hairs with our black, and we're going to curve them. So we're going to start inside here, and I'm going to go really close so you can see. So we're going to make these little curved hairs that are coming out of the beak. Some that are going a little bit downward into this area of the beak. And then we're going to go up and make a few more. And they're curving like so. And then we're going to start into the hair with making a curved black line here. And we're going to make some more. Going a bit more into the beak area. And once we do that, let me go out a little bit with the camera. We're going to make sort of an imaginary line. Well, it's not really imaginary, but basically we're going to make a curve going towards the eye. But we want to make it really light, because what we're going to do is this is where we're going to be starting all the hair, all the vibrant hair. And then you kind of want to make this section a little more of a curve coming from here. And you can make it a little more hairy coming back towards the eye. So I'll say that again. So we made our first sort of kind of curve, because we're going to be making the vibrant sections coming out from this line. And then we make a little bit of a line that goes towards the bottom of the eye and the hair that we did. And then you can make one more layer of the fur. And now we're going to start with the hair or the fur. I keep calling it hair or fur. Furry hair, hairy fur, maybe hairy fur. Okay, so we're going to come back over here on the right. And we're going to do a little shading in of this area right here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to shade this lightly. Yeah, you're right, John Paul. It is feathers. I keep saying fur and hair, and you're right. It's the feathers. Thank you. Thanks for setting me straight. So we're just going to.
I said that too.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
In the chat? Nice.
Well, actually, I said it to you. She just said it out loud.
Oh, got it.
I was screaming.
Nice. Okay, so now we're going to continue with starting to make some of these lines. So we're going to also make a curved line here, like so. This is with our black. Can you all see that? Okay, it's light. And then we're going to come back down into the edge here, right along where this line is. And we're going to start making some wispy lines right here. And you can start to go a little bit into the beak area here, the white part really. So we're making curved lines like that. And then we're going to come down into the beak. So we're going to shade the section here with our black, and I'm going to go in close so you can see. I've just shaded a little bit. We're going to come back and make one part of it a little darker. And we can shade a little bit on this one. And we're going to continue into now the orange part of the beak. And we're going to shade here. So as you can see, what I've done is I've made a darker spot right here. It's a little bit darker along the edge here, and then a little more shaded toward the bottom. And I'm just going to show that up close. See how there's kind of a dark circle at the top of the oval? That's the darkest part of the nostril. And then we are going to come up to the top of our orange beak. So around this area, we're going to lightly shade like this. So it's almost like an upside down triangle. And then we're going to shade very lightly along the edge and going downward toward the tip. This is with our black. We're shading toward the tip and a little bit darker when you get to the tip here. And then you're going to shade a little bit underneath where the oval of the nose is, the nostril. So again, we're just using our black right now. This is our first layer. And then we're finally going to come to the bottom of the mouth. Which is right here. We're going to make one little area that we haven't done yet. We're going to make another very light line. Across. Really light. Now, once you do that, we're going to come back up here and we're going to make another line like this. And then we're going to shade black. Not real dark. Very lightly. For now. So it's going to look a little something like that. Nice, John Paul. Really nice. Yeah. You're awesome at shading. All right, we're going to keep going here. I'm going to lift up my camera a little bit because we're going to go into this area, right? These areas right here. You know, we'll be coming back and doing more detail over here, but we're using our black for now. So we're going to shade a little bit. In this first section, we're going to take our black and we're just going to shade very lightly. So it's going to look like a light gray. It's going to look like our pencil, as if we're kind of shading with our pencil. So we're just going to shade a little bit there. And then the next one, we're going to make a little bit darker of a line to about right here. And this time we're going to be shading from left to right. So if you have to turn your eagle to do that, you can. So here's what I'm doing. We're going to shade in between. I'm going to go really up close. Here is the section of that area. So we have this whole section of area, and we're going to shade back and forth, left to right, so that our lines of shading look like really thin strokes of lines. So you're going to shade by lifting up your pencil now and making lines that are going left to right, like that. So I twisted my paper around so that I did it in the right way. So I twisted my paper like this. I rotated it and then went that way, if that's easier for you. Slowly turning him back around. Now, once we do that, we're going to leave that section alone for now. And we're going to come back up to the mouth area, the bottom of the mouth area. So once you're finished with the lines back and forth here, we're going to come back over to the corner of the mouth. And underneath, so around this area right here, we're going to start making black fur that's curving. So you're going to make strokes that are curving like so. And then it's going to be a little bit straighter and curving in the opposite direction when it gets to the curve down here. So it's going to look a little something like this. And then once you do that, you want to shade in with your black towards the bottom of where the hairs are coming out of. like that. So then you're going to kind of shade over it. And then you can start to make some light shaded hairs going in different directions, but coming from the original part where we've done over here. Okay, so we're going to make light lines that are going that way. We're really going to start making the curvy hairs, and we're going to work up towards the eye and the top right corner, or top left corner, excuse me, of our paper. And also towards the eye area. Okay, so we have a good basis now. And now we're going to finally get to the eye, and we're going to really shade in the eyeball area with our black. And then after that, we're going to start to add lots of color. So our eyeball area here, we want to add another highlight right in this section. And you may have to do a little erasing on the edge. So basically, there's another kind of oval highlight right here. Yeah, John Paul, you got it. Nice, nice. Okay, so now that we've got that, we're going to start shading our eye. So we're going to start and make it really dark around the top area. As you can see, there's a really dark shadow happening there. So we're talking about this whole section. So we're going to take our black and we're going to make it pretty dark, but we still want to make sure that it's not black, not yet, because we have to add color. And then we're going to add black on top of the color. So we're going to start right in this area, and we're going to kind of make another curved line so that we know where to shade. So it's going to look a bit like this. So I just made this curved line because that's where we're going to shade. But we're not going to shade it black. All right, so now we're going to shade in that section. Like this. And once you do that, you can outline. So now you can go a bit darker with your black pencil, and you're going to outline the top of the eye shape and a little bit past it, like right here. Okay, so I just went darker. Oh yeah, nice, John Paul. Yeah, you got it. You got it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you're still going to have this part. And now we're going to take our black and we're going to start making it a little darker now on the bottom of the eye. So we're going to kind of do an outline almost of the eyeball in this section. And then guess what? We're going to shade in that area right here. And guess what? We're going to shade at the bottom of our eye in a curve like this. And then our next section is going to be that curve that we did right next to the eyeball. So it's going to look like this. And for now, it's going to be a little bit darker, but again, we're not making it black yet because we still need to add color. We want that color to shine through. And now we're going to color in the pupil here, right around the highlight with our black. And you can make this darker. We are going to add some red to it, but you can make this part a bit darker around the first highlight there. And you can start to outline the round shape near it, kind of like underneath it, this part here. So it's going to look a bit like that. Oh, nice, John Paul, that's excellent. Oh, very nice. Okay. All right. Yep. So next, we're now going to start adding our red. So we're going to put this down. And actually, I'm sorry, we're going to add our yellow first. So now you want to grab your dark yellow. So dark yellow, if you have Crayola, I have something called golden yellow. So you want something a little darker than just the yellow. If you only have the yellow, you can take your brown and color on top of your yellow. That's the second best option. So, all right. So if you have the yellow, you're going to take your yellow now. And we're now going to color the eye. So we're coloring around inside the shape of the eye and the other part on top. So like that. So you're now going to have a yellow eye. And we're going to keep this yellow. And we're going to start going around the eagle with the yellow. So lightly coloring in the base of your eye. Now we're going to go into our mouth. And you're going to color that yellow. And you're going to color also on top of the black that you did. And it's going to look shaded. So again, this is with your yellow. We're coloring in with our yellow, the mouth, and on top of the black that we did too. So it's going to look like that. And then you're also going to color the beak. So you're coloring over the black and you're coloring over the whole part of the beak, including over the dark parts that you shaded with your black colored pencil. Now you want to make it neat. You want it to look, you don't want to color it in so that it's dark because we're going to be layering this color. So it should look a little bit like that. Oh, there's a line going down because I was putting my paper on top of the other paper. You don't want that. Now, once you do that, you're also going to go on top above, and you're also going to color very lightly yellow in that section. And then we're also going to go into our white area all here. And this we're going to do with strokes of yellow. So as if you're doing fur. So I've started off towards under the eye, or in this area. And I just want to fill that white section with light strokes going towards the beak. So I'm just going to kind of show you. It's really hard to see. Those are light strokes of yellow. And we're going to do that. Yep, you got it, John Paul. Yep, exactly. You're going to do that going all the way towards filling up this whole space with short strokes. They're kind of curved a little bit, or they should be curving a little bit. Not straight strokes, but just a little bit curving, especially when you get to the end of where the beak is. Now you're not going to be able to see it all that well. That's okay. That's our under layer. And then we're going to, still holding on to our yellow here. And now we're going to flip over here for a little bit, right into this section. And we're going to lightly shade. We're going to shade this whole section yellow. We're not going to go on top of the black that we did. We're just going to the left of it. In these two sections, we're doing light yellow, just straight up and down shading. See, and just kind of real quickly. With our yellow. And we're going to continue with our yellow from this area up to the eye. So again, this area up into underneath the eye for now. We're going to take our yellow and we're now going to shade over the black that we did. And we're going to shade in this whole area very lightly because this is one of the colors that is layered underneath our eagle. And then we're going to get more vibrant when we go up towards the eye. But for now, we're doing a light layer. This is with our yellow underneath the eye. And then we're even, after you do that, you're going to use the yellow really right underneath the eye in the hairy part in this area. Still holding on to that yellow, because we're then going to shade with our yellow now more vibrantly above the eye. So above the black section that we outline the eye, and we're going to do that in kind of a curved, sort of a curved line, like so. And then we're going to start to shade a little bit in that whole area, light yellow, like we did down there. And you can start to make kind of big curved strokes from this portion here, like this, as if we're making a hair. So again, I know it's really hard to see with the yellow, but big curved strokes. And this is our first layer of our eagle before we start to get really vibrant. And now we're going to start to get more vibrant. So we are going to come right underneath here, right underneath the beak. So right in this section right here, and we're going to make this part much more yellow, just this one section like that. We're also going to do it to the mouth area. So not so much on the black area, but the top part of the mouth area. You're going to get a little more darker with your yellow. We're now going to go to the left side here in this area, and we're going to start to be making some spots that are vibrantly yellow. So for instance, right up here towards the corner of this part of the eye, and also the corner, top left corner of our page. You're going to make that more yellow. And then you're going to take that down towards the black that you colored towards the bottom of the mouth. So you're going to take that like that. And then you're also going to add, thanks, Lorraine. You're welcome. This is going to be, this is recording, so you'll get the recording. Thanks so much for spending time with us.
Miss Anita, we're going to go too. Kosi just wants to show you hers real quick.
Okay, let me see. Cozy, that looks incredible.
Lots of color.
Oh
Thank you.
Lots of color. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Okay, so we're continuing with our yellow here. So vibrantly, the yellow. Then we're going to come into the top part of the head. We're going to start making some sections again that are vibrantly yellow. So I like to curve kind of a section right here and here. So now we're making what looks like the fur or the feathers, right, John Paul? Kind of like the sections that are vibrant with the yellow. So we're starting from this area right here that we kind of blocked off with our black. And now we're just creating curved strokes for now of yellow coming from that. Going up, making sure that we go up to the top of our page so that it doesn't look, you know, a little strange. That's with our yellow. And then we are going to be going into the eye. So going back into the eye. And we're going to create a circle of vibrant yellow going around the round part of the eye here. So I'm going to show that up close. So the round part outside of the black that we did. That's yellow. And then we're going to put our yellow down for a bit. And we're going to get into our orange finally. Make sure, is this the right orange? Yeah. Okay. And we're going to go into the eye. And we're going to start shading on top of the black part and the dark part. This is with the orange. So first, we're going underneath the eye. And then we're going to go into the black part on top of the eye, the shaded area. So this is with our orange, and we're going to continue that orange very vibrantly on top of the yellow part of the fur here. So right there. We're going to go into the pupil. And we're going to color on top of the black with the orange. All the dark parts where the black is, or the almost black, you're going to go on top with your orange. So you're making kind of almost like it's like a brown. And then you're going to go into the eye. You're going to color the portion around the black part. You're going to color that orange. I'm going to go closer so you can see. So we colored under here, this part here. We're going to color on top of the yellow around the highlight, the first highlight here. We're finally going to get into the eye, and we're going to shade orange on top of the yellow around the inside of the eye in a circle like this. We're not going to go into, we're going to go into light shading when we get closer to the eye. And we want to add some really light lines with the orange coming from the pupil, like so. I'm just going to show that up close. See the light lines drawn around there. And now we're going to go into the hair on top, above the eye. We're now going to start adding orange big strokes to the hair. And there's parts that you want to color orange. So this is the top part on the head, and we're using our orange, and we're thinking about this being hair, fur. So we're going to, like we did with the yellow, we're now going to be adding chunks of color and strokes of curving with our orange. But when we get to the part towards the edge where the beak is, or going towards the beak, you can start to scribble with orange on top of the black you did. And then you're also going to start going into the white part towards the beak and making light orange strokes on top of the yellow. Are you all okay with 5 more minutes past what we're doing? Would that be okay, Karen, and anyone else, if anyone has to leave?
Yes, if anybody has to leave, just know we'll catch you up. But
Yeah.
I think, yes, I think we're all good with, or those of us who can will. Thanks, Anita.
Sure. Thanks, Karen. Thanks, everybody. Okay, so you're continuing with the orange in the white portion of the beak before we get to the orange part. And now I'm making short orange strokes on top of the yellow that we did. So those really short strokes, you're making those now in the white portion. And you're going to go all the way to the eye. This is just making it a little bit furry. Like so. You're going to keep going towards the eye. And when you get to underneath the eye, where the black hair is, you still want to use that orange. And you're going to go now under the eye, and you're curving like the hair is curving underneath. Fix my thing here. And then you're going to go right into that section to the left of the eye with your orange. So everything, you're using your orange right now around the various parts of your eagle. When you get to the left side, going towards under the eye, you're going to start making long, colorful strokes with your orange. And sometimes you are coloring with your orange to make it a little more vibrant. So he should be now starting to look very orangey red or orangey yellow. You also want to go into the yellow that we did under his chin. And under the chin, you're going to start to make strokes that are going from left to right in the curved area that we designated, the sections that we designated for you to do that. You're also going to get into the mouth, in the bottom part of the mouth, where the black is. And you're going to add orange on top of that too, on top of the black. And then you're going to trace the center of the mouth where it's black. You're going to trace orange on top of that too. And you're going to start shading on top of both sections of the beak. This is with your orange. There's a lot of orange. And the section of the beak right above where the really orangey part of the beak is, you're going to kind of shade around that part of it, and lightly when you get to the center of it. But then you're going to start to add deeper orange on top of the yellow. Of your beak. And you can look up to see, what portions we do darker. But first you want to do like a light shading of orange over the entire beak with orange. And then the sections that are darker, you're going to really start pressing your orange into the paper on top of your yellow. To get a nice darker area. And especially going towards the tip. Remember the black area that we did. You're going to press your orange onto that. It's going to look like a nice brownish orange. Like so. And when you're done that, you're going to put your orange down. And you're going to start to grab your lighter blue. And you're going to repeat the process of adding vibrant coloring by going into the top part of your eagle And you're going to add that turquoise. I should have said turquoise actually. So we're going with our turquoise. Into the colorful top part of our eagle here. Yeah, aqua green will work too, John Paul. Absolutely. Yeah. Aqua green, turquoise, you name it. And you're going to start adding some nice colorful chunks now around and into the hairs all around. So sometimes it looks like I mentioned, kind of scribbling in sections. And it all depends where you want that turquoise. Doesn't have to look exactly like mine. And you're going to start experimenting with adding, chunks of that color around. This is with the turquoise or greenish blue. You can add some in hairs. There's some hairs that are like that in the white section of our eagle with some hair towards the beak. And then you can start vibrantly really coloring with that turquoise all around and getting into the left side of the hair or the portion of the eagle going down the left side of our paper. So the part where we're doing the short strokes in those sections, you can really take that turquoise and you're going to start going from left to right in those sections. And this is where you're going to be adding the other colors like purple, green. But first you want that turquoise there. You're even going over the black. Short strokes from left to right or right to left. This is with your turquoise. He should be pretty colorful at this point. And you can start to grab your brown. And the brown is for the sections in the fur towards the eye underneath. Some of that hair, short strokes of hair. Brown is also along the edges of the beak on the tip. We even have some brown underneath the mouth in the fur in the left and right short strokes underneath the mouth. We've got brown on top of the turquoise. Now I know we've gone over by about 10 minutes at this point. I'm curious to see what everyone's looks like. Because what we do is then, when you're ready to make the eye a bit darker, you add brown and black to the shadow part. As well, where we originally started doing that, but we wanted to make sure that we laid out those areas. But then you can feel free to make the shadow darker with your black when you're done with laying out those areas, so that it has a nice kind of thicker blackness to it for the shadow. Oh yeah, let me show you the brown line. That's a good idea, John Paul. So John Paul said, can you show me the brown line? So the brown is really in this part. I've made brown on top of these parts.
I see.
Yeah, good. And then back in the eye.
Hello.
And then even this section in the fur on the top of the head. That's really where I put the brown, and then a little bit on top of the orange beak, kind of along the edges of the parts that are a little darker. That's where I put the brown on top of the orange. And then if you want to get it really dark, you can add some black on top of it. And you have a really nice dark, especially with the mouth. So that was just black on top of brown. So I'm going to stop the recording.